Most of you have probably heard the standard piece of trivia about Foghorn Leghorn. If you ask anyone who knows a little bit about classic cartoons, they'll usually tell you, oh, he's just based on Senator Claghorn. And hearing that name today, it's easy to assume Senator Claghorn was some real-life, blowhard politician from the 1940s that Warner Brothers was roasting, except he wasn't a real politician at all. He was a fictional character on The Fred Allen Show, a radio program almost nobody today remembers. But even if you knew about that radio show, the trivia still falls completely apart when you look at the actual production dates. Foghorn's dialogue for his very first short was recorded on January 13th, 1945. Senator Beauregard Claghorn didn't debut on national radio until October 1945, 10 months later. So, literally, he could not have started out as a parody of Claghorn. The real origin goes back to a completely different reference, and the way he came together is actually a whole lot more interesting. The reason people get this mixed up today is pretty simple. Because network radio variety shows faded out in the 1950s, a lot of viewers today really don't know what actually was on the air back then. The name Senator Claghorn just gets passed around online like it's a settled fact. But Termite Terrace didn't work by waiting around for a national craze to copy. They were running a production line, and they pulled from things that had already been floating around for years. So, if it wasn't Claghorn at the start, where did that voice actually come from? To answer that, you have to look at the directing unit. Robert Bob McKimson was promoted to full director in late 1944, and like the other directors on the lot, his primary job was turning out shorts with the studio's bankable stars, Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, and Porky Pig. There wasn't some massive crisis where he had to create some brand new franchise character overnight or get fired or whatever. That's not how the studio worked. The big stars paid the bills, but within the schedule, there was usually room for a free slot just to try out a funny idea. Now, I do want to give credit where it's due here. The only reason we have such paper trails for this sort of thing today is the incredible work of animation historians. Keith Scott documented these exact recording dates and voice credits in his incredible book, Cartoon Voices, and I have a link below in the description. Highly recommended if you have an interest in cartoon history. And my good friend Devin Baxter has done fantastic research diving deep into McKimson's unit history over on Cartoon Research and his Patreon. There'll be a link as well in the description. Without people like Devin Baxter and Keith Scott, among many others, and there'll be too many to list here, digging through all these studio ledgers, a lot of this history would be totally lost. What they documented was that Mel Blanc and McKimson were actually reaching back into local 1930s California radio, specifically an actor named Jack Clifford, who played a character called the Sheriff on a West Coast show called Blue Monday Jamboree. Clifford's sheriff was this loud, hard-of-hearing blowhard. He'd talk over everyone, constantly repeat questions, and restart his sentences with that familiar verbal tick. I see. Or, lose something? I see. Did you lose something there? Mel Blanc was an experienced radio guy who worked in West Coast broadcasting for years. He knew the bit, and he brought that exact talking over you speech pattern into the studio. Which brings us to the first short featuring Foghorn Leghorn, Walkie Talkie Hawkie. The dialogue was recorded in January 1945, and the cartoon hit theaters in August of 1946. And here's the thing, this actually wasn't even meant to be a Foghorn Leghorn cartoon, at least one that we know of today. This was pitched as a Henry Hawk short. Chuck Jones had created Henry a few years earlier in The Squawking Hawk, and the character was actually pretty popular in Dell's Looney Tunes comic books at the time. So McKimson and Foster were just using an established character they had access to. Foghorn didn't even have a name. He's just an unnamed barnyard rooster brought in as a foil for Henry, along with the barnyard dog, who is still essentially unnamed even to this day. It's another classic Warner Brothers situation where a loud side character completely takes over the cartoon and overshadows the supposed star. Heck, even the barnyard dog ended up becoming a permanent fixture just because he works so well bouncing off this rooster. And if you listen to the voice in Walkie Talkie Hawkie, you can hear it's still a prototype, at least compared to what the voice sounds like today.
You lose something? I say, did you lose something, kid? A chicken, eh? Well, I'm a horse. I say I'm a horse myself. I say there's a chicken for you. This boy doesn't pay attention. Nice four-legged chicken.
Mel Blanc is using a much gruffer, deeper voice, honestly a bit more closer to Yosemite Sam. There are no Claghorn catchphrases. There's no, that's a joke, son. There's no, Stephen Foster songs yet. It was strictly the Jack Clifford radio routine put into an animated bird. So, if it wasn't Claghorn, then why does everyone swear it was? The real question was never, is Foghorn Claghorn? It's which part of Foghorn is Claghorn? Try saying that fast 10 times. So late 1945, Kenny Delmar introduces Senator Beauregard Claghorn on the Fred Allen Show. It blows up into an overnight national sensation. Everyone across the country is quoting this fast-talking Southern politician.
Pardon me, mister.
Senator Claghorn's the name. Claghorn, that is.
Senator Claghorn?
I'm from the South, or the deep South.
From way down south, huh?
Yeah, I'm so far down south that my family's treading water in the Gulf Stream.
Hey, that is south, isn't it?
Yeah, where I live, we call the people from Alabama Yankees.
And termite terrorists always paid attention to what was popular. McKimson and Foster created another short featuring Foghorn Leghorn in his very second short, Crowing Pains. And this is where they started blending the two together. They didn't throw away the Clifford sheriff delivery that they had already recorded, they just started adding Claghorn's mannerisms into it. So now you get the trailing tag phrases and you get the catchphrase delivery.
I say you gotta keep on your toes. What toes, that is? But the fast ones get right by you. Keep your ears open.
That's a joke, boy. You missed it. And yes, I'm aware my accent is terrible. Don't judge me.
No wonder you're not sharp. You gotta always listen.
The voice gets a bit smoother, moving away from that early, rougher growl.
What's the gag? I say, what's the gag, son? Gag, that is. Where are we taking me, boy? Speak up.
So Foghorn wasn't Claghorn. It was just that his popularity got layered onto what McKimson and Blanc were already doing. And over the next couple of years, McKimson locked down the rest of the pieces. In 1948's The Foghorn Leghorn, the character finally gets his official name right there on the title card. Then in 1949's Henhouse Henry, they added the singing. Foghorn strutting around, bellowing campdown races. We all know the song. While sneaking up with a wooden plank to act the dog, which is never not funny, right? By 1950s, the Leghorn blows at midnight. McKimson also finalized his visual look. In those earlier 1940s shorts, he's a bit squatter and heavier, but starting in 1950, Foghorn becomes taller, slightly leaner, but he still has that big round gut, so he's pretty much me. But that becomes the definitive model for the rest of the classic era. Now, the interesting thing about all this is that the radio sources essentially died out as television became more popular. Jack Clifford's sheriff was already forgotten by the mid-1940s and hardly known outside of California, and Senator Claghorn disappeared when network radio folded in the 1950s. If Foghorn was just a one-to-one parody of a radio bit, he probably wouldn't be as popular as he is today. McKimson and Foster build a character that just works on pure physical cartoon logic. Foghorn is an unprovoked instigator. He goes out of his way to pick fights with the dog and can't stop himself from over-explaining every little thing. Sounds a bit like me, actually. And his own mouth ends up walking him straight into a rake or an explosion. His dialogue traits were actually secondary to what the actual character was. And when he put both the character and his dialogue together, you get one unforgettable character. And to keep things from getting stale, McKimson didn't just rely on Henry and the dog forever. Over the years, he brought in other great foils to shake up the dynamic. Characters like Miss Prissy, the Barnyard Weasel, Sylvester even appeared once, and this other Sylvester knockoff appeared once, and of course Egghead Jr. And that variety kept the shorts fresh long after anyone remembered the original radio gags. So we tend to look back at these classic characters and assume that they arrived fully formed with a master plan behind them, but the reality is usually a lot more interesting. A borrowed radio bit from the 1930s, a side character hijacking a Henry Hawk cartoon, and a popular 1945 radio fad layered on top to fill a quota. Let me know if there's a cartoon origin story you want me to take a look at, or even a classic bit that you think originates in Looney Tunes and, well, I can spoil it for you saying, nope, it was from the radio. Either way, let me know in the comments, but until next time guys, take care.
2 half nothings is a whole nothing, and I know what I'm talking about because... Shut up!